And welcome back to Hannity. A war of words has erupted between Republican rivals Donald Trump and Jeb Bush because of this.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can prove me wrong, but I don't think that you're a friend to women.
I knew I shouldn't have picked her. I knew I shouldn't have picked her. I have given women more opportunity than I would say virtually anybody in the construction industry. I have a daughter named Ivanka and a wife named Melania who constantly want me to talk about women's health issues because they know how I feel about it.
So if you become president, will a woman make the same as a man? And do I get to choose what I do with my body?
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job.
Now, the woman you just saw question Donald Trump was later discovered to be a Bush campaign volunteer. After that revelation, Donald Trump, he took to Twitter. He wrote, quote, "The arrogant woman who questioned me in such a nasty fashion at the No Labels event yesterday was a Jeb staffer. How can he beat Russia and China?" Earlier today, the Bush campaign responded by taking a shot at Donald Trump in a statement that reads, in part, "Like many in New Hampshire, Lauren is a student who's passionate about and active in politics and attended this event on her own accord." Now, this question was not sanctioned by the campaign, and we can't help but notice Mr. Trump does seem to be very sensitive about being challenged by women. So are these feuds among GOP candidates helping or hurting the party? Responding to that, 2016 GOP hopeful Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, is this good or bad?
Oh, listen, I like Donald Trump and I like Jeb Bush. You know, the way I'm not going to get in the middle of their shooting back and forth, the way I've been conducting my campaign, I think the American people could not care less about politicians bickering like children. I think they're interested in real and positive solutions to the problems in this country. It's one of the reasons that the first two debates, you know, the moderators have tried to turn them into food fights. I've stayed out of it, said, look, I'm not interested in tearing people down and engaging in personal insults. Let's focus on how we bring back jobs and economic growth, how we defend the Constitution and restore America's leadership. That's what the American people are looking for.
Let me ask, there's a lot of, the reporters in this country will say there's chaos in the House. I actually think this is an opportunity for the House, with John Boehner now out. Paul Ryan's name keeps getting mentioned a lot, but a lot of conservatives don't like his position on immigration. I know you feel passionately about immigration, sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, but also tell me, who would you like to see as Speaker? We have Newt Gingrich coming on next. Would you like to see him as Speaker?
Well, look, I think very highly of Newt. I think he's brilliant and is a great strategist, and then Newt is a friend, someone who I visit with often. You know, in terms of who the House should select as a Speaker, I've very deliberately stayed out of that. I think that's a decision for the House Republican Conference. I have, however, laid out the characteristics that I think the next Speaker should have. I think the next Speaker should be a strong conservative. And most importantly, the next Speaker should be committed to honoring the promises we made to the men and women who elected us. You and I were talking just a few minutes ago about the great gulf there is because people make promises on campaign day and they don't follow through. And Sean, let me give an example of that in the presidential context. You know, in the presidential race, every presidential candidate is saying, vote for me and I will stand up and fight Washington. Well, the natural next question is, okay, when have you ever fought Washington? And, you know, you think back to 2013 when millions of Americans rose up against Obamacare. I was proud to lead that fight. And of the other 10 people on that debate stage, where were they? None of the other folks there led in any meaningful way. You think about 20...
Yeah, but there's an inordinate fear that has rendered them impotent. They seem unwilling to use their constitutional authority, even to stop something that they all declared was illegal and unconstitutional, an executive order on amnesty, or to defund Planned Parenthood, or to defund Obamacare, or the aspects that they could defund. All the president, all the Democrats have to say is, whoops, we're going to blame you for shutting down the government, and they surrender.
Right.
So doesn't the next speaker have to be willing to allow the president to shut down the government if they fund every other aspect of the government but his special priorities?
We shouldn't have a shutdown, but the situation is Republican leadership has promised we'll never, ever, ever have a shutdown. And Obama said, aha, I have a magic key. All I have to do is whisper the word shutdown, and Republican leadership will surrender and run for the hills. So on every policy issues, He says fund all of Obamacare or I'll shut the government down. And Republican leadership says, great. He says fund amnesty or I'll shut the government down.
Well, that's my
same
point.
thing on Planned Parenthood, same thing on Iran.
But when the president...
So we've got to be willing to stand our ground.
When the president will literally defy the law and the laws of Congress. For example, we have all these sanctuary cities set up across America.
Yeah.
Why did I always think that that was illegal? That the president's executive order is illegal? You've spoken out about these things recently.
That's exactly right. The Senate next week is going to vote on legislation that I introduced along with a number of other senators, including Iowa's own Chuck Grassley, to end sanctuary cities, to strip all federal funding of any city that defies federal immigration law, and to pass Kate's Law, the legislation that I introduced that provides for a mandatory minimum prison sentence of 5 years for any aggregated felon who enters illegally. You know, it's the legislation named for Kate Steinle, that beautiful young lady murdered by an illegal alien in San Francisco, a sanctuary city. I'm glad we're voting next week. But, you know, Sean, we're going to vote on it, and almost surely there'll be a party line vote. The Democrats will vote no. We'll get some clarity on that. The Democrats, it'll be clear where they stand. But, you know, I have a question. Just 2 weeks ago, we passed a continuing resolution. Why wouldn't Republican leadership put sanctuary cities legislation and Kate's Law on a continuing resolution and put it on Obama's desk and force him to decide, does he shut the government down in order to maintain sanctuary cities?
Well said. Senator, congratulations. You had a big jump in the polls in this latest Fox News poll. You're now in double digits. We'll continue to watch your progress and see you out on the campaign trail. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Sean, and the momentum is incredible. People keep going every day to tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org, contributing, volunteering, and I'm really encouraged at how many conservatives are coming together to turn the country around.
All right, Senator, we hope so. We need to turn the country around.